Hello and welcome to the weather forecast.
Which is about games, not weather.
Yes, if you haven't seen this series before, this is where we try and predict what will happen to a game's launch on Steam based on a bunch of publicly available metrics. And we always focus on the top 10 popular upcoming games on Steam. So, last week we estimated 10 popular upcoming games, and this is the part where we see how wrong we were.
Because, if you things before, you'll know we estimate, we guess the numbers for the reviews the games get in week one, which is a decent proxy for their success. And then we record our numbers so you can see how badly wrong we were the next week.
But we've been doing pretty good. So, spreadsheet time. Okay, so the first game we reviewed last week was Happy Sheepies, which we got right, I'm glad to say, really. You guessed...
You got right.
Well, you guessed 50. It's not true. I think you got closer, and I guessed 36.
Oh, yes.
So the actual results was 91, week one. So just to remind everybody that week one results are what we are interested in, because that gives you a good idea of the game's velocity, of the way that it's resonated with players. So 91 reviews in week one is a good outcome.
The consensus is that you generally get, for a standard game, about 3 to 4 times your week one sales in the rest of the year, the first year you're out, not counting sales. So the first week is big. Like I say about films and parachutes, it opens big or you're dead.
Yeah. So that's encouraging. Now, Arc of Charon or Chiron?
I'll go with Charon.
Okay, well...
But I'm not a purist.
You can decide at home. You guessed 150, I guessed 198, and the week one results were...
51, worse than we expected. Don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably worth working out why. Maybe it's just that it's a sort of type that people have seen before. You said build and moving base is always difficult from a design, so maybe the design was an issue. Who knows? Once Human, you guessed
7,500.
and I guessed 9,578. And again, to benchmark you here, as indies, we would expect somewhere between 100 and 500 reviews week one to be a really good, solid success, depending on lots of other factors like how big you are and how big the game is and yada, yada. And Once Human, I think, got the most reviews in week one that we have ever seen, having done this estimation. They got
26,784 reviews against a review score of 67% mixed, which is exactly what you'd expect for a big... Is it a looter shooter? Is it free to play? I think it's both those things. If not, it's similar. In its first week, people would be complaining about balance and connectivity and lobbies and all those sort of stuff. So I think we thought it'd blow the doors off. It blew the doors off, the windows out, and the roof sank in.
And I think that's the power of China, honestly. One of the things that we struggle with, because there is a separation between Steam in the West and Steam in China, although there is some crossover, and this is one of those crossovers, is it's difficult for us to just imagine the numbers, because China is obviously such a populous country. So we just don't know its country very well. We don't know exactly what to expect, and this has clearly been a multiplier.
I think that's true. I think also there's the effect where success generates success and failure breeds failure, on Steam especially, but elsewhere generally. So often if we estimate something will do well, it'll hit a virtuous circle and do really well.
So very good job there. Time Tracker, we guessed 50 and 70, and it ended up as
110.
So I'm going to give that to us. It's in the rough ballpark. It did slightly better than we expected, but roughly the same amount, so good job them. Princess Maker 2 Regeneration.
Yeah, this was interesting, and this generated some discussion in the comments, because it's a much loved franchise from way back, and nostalgia is an energy.
It really is.
But the thing about nostalgia is whether it translates across media, and also how big the audience is on that the new medium. And we thought it wasn't going to do great.
We guessed 50 to 57 reviews, and it actually did better in terms of the number of reviews. It got 83, but still in the same ballpark. But its review score was 53%, which is mixed and quite a low review score for a week one game. So there was clearly some issues, whether it was people didn't feel they'd done the original franchise right, whether or not there were some technical issues, I don't know. But that's an interesting one.
I think the Princess Maker franchise doesn't seem to have translated well to PC generally. I'm not sure if it's a UI thing or an audience thing or what, but yeah, clearly part of that.
Hooker Haze. Now, to be clear, that is a hooker with an AH. We guessed between 160 and 200, and it got
336.
So it did better than we expected. And I suspect this is because even though it was a sort of slightly sexy visual novel, which we've seen before, I think it had like a vibe. I think I
might have underestimated the amount of depth. And it's easy to dismiss games that are a little bit titillating, and I think there might have been more love gone into this than I realised.
Well, and by vibe, I don't just mean like kind of nonsense millennial, like, ooh, I don't know. What I mean by vibe is I think it felt really coherent, and it gave people a particular feeling. And if you like that feeling, you wanted to play it. So the combination of, if you're a visual novel player, you will be interested in this visual novel, with if you like this sort of emotion, you will like this visual novel. I think that's a very good combination. So well done them. They did even better than we expected. Angerfoot.
I thought 1,620 reviews.
And I thought 1,375. And this only got 814 reviews. So again, remember that benchmark, 100 to 500 is what we would expect to see for a happy, healthy indie launch. And this has obviously done almost double what you would expect. So this is very, very good by most metrics. The only reason I say only 814 is one, it was number 86 most wished game on Steam, so it had a lot of buzz, and two, it was being published by Devolver Digital, which is one of the most well-known publishing labels out there. So I don't know how they feel about it. I imagine they might be slightly disappointed, but it's clearly got a high review score. It's got 93%, which is amazing. Almost
overwhelmingly positive. It's done really well. It's just I'm surprised it didn't do better. I have two hypotheses which are totally different, which I haven't bothered to investigate at all. One is, sometimes you do actual minutes of research. One is just that Devolver Digital have been around for a long while, really successful, and have very much a house look, and maybe just people are looking for something different than the house look they've seen for a decade. New is always important. And maybe it's just that it released the same week as Once Human.
Yeah.
So a lot of people got who wanted to kick things decided to shoot things instead.
All right, Horticular, which I felt sort of very positive about. I'm wishing this dev very well, because I think they've tried very hard to do a game they love. So we guessed between 120 and 190 reviews, and it got
135.
Bang on the money. Good job us, and good job them.
So again, this is easy to get skewed with the anchoring effect of much bigger numbers. This obviously did like a fifth the business of Angerfoot, but still for a small dev first time thing, it's really good. 94% positive on Steam reviews. People clearly loved what they were putting down.
So they've got a great game to work with and to work on in the future. So I think that has a very positive future. Which I'm happy to say. Now we get into a weird thing.
Yeah.
Meme mayhem. We said we didn't really understand this in the first place, and it continues to confound, because it doesn't really matter what we estimated in terms of review score, because it turned out it didn't come out.
Yeah, so there was a post on their news feed a bit over a week ago saying that the game was stuck in the review queue for Steam and they didn't know it was coming. And then we haven't heard anything more about that, and it's reverted back to coming soon.
So it doesn't have a launch date anymore.
So they maybe had a technical issue, or maybe it was a legal copyright issue.
Because there were some well-known people in the game, and I don't know what the legal thing is about that. So who knows? And our final game, Zombie Raid, No One Survives.
Yeah, I mean, some people survive, but not that many.
Only 66.
So my concern about this one was, it's got zombie in the title, which I say cuts your sales in half, which I think is unfair. But zombies are respectful. Over. It's early access, which is the problem. It's co-op, which means it could do really well or really badly.
But it has to be technically sound.
Yeah, and there was some early chatter on the forum saying that they were having troubles with the netcode, and it's in mixed reviews because it's they had trouble with the netcode, and we guessed high end 121, low end 43, and they got 66 reviews week one. Oh. So I think this is still a game with a lot of promise in the long run. It's really beautiful looking.
It is beautifully made.
It obviously does have a following, and the thing about problems with netcode is you can fix it. So if that's their biggest problem, then
so good luck to them.
Yeah.
All right, are you ready for some new games?
I was born ready.
Right, more spreadsheets.
Do I not sound ready?
You sound so ready. Okay, our first game this week is Old School Rally.
You really, really responded positively to this, didn't you?
Well, I'm surprised because when I first saw it, I was like, snore cars. Like, I'm not a car girl. I'm not interested. And I actually thought, snore cars. And then I thought, this doesn't look very well made. Those textures look really old. And then I bothered to read this page. And they are deliberately going for a retro-style PS1 era classic racing game. And I actually find it really charming. I think they've managed to recreate the feeling that I had when I was playing, demos on the PlayStation back in whatever, the 90s. So I think it's back to basics gameplay. I think it's really charming nostalgia, which you already talked about as being quite a powerful motivating force. It's clearly made with love, which I think is always a fantastic. I think you can sense that from a game, which makes players want to play it. So yeah, and the numbers are good. Based on the numbers I can find, it's coming out at around 285 reviews week one, which would be fantastic and much better than their previous game.
We've got 3 reviews. Week
Only
one,
got 3 reviews.
yeah.
So I don't know what happened there, but this time they got a publisher. So maybe that's what's happened, or maybe they just learned.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was
I think unless you're really lucky, your first game will not do well.
Exactly. There's no shade on them at all. It's just, you know, the numbers that are coming out are much harder than the numbers they did for their first game.
It's always much. Your second game, you know what you're doing. You maybe got an audience. If it was successful at all, you got much chance. Anyway, I'm estimating a bit lower, 180, solely because it's early access, and that usually pushes things down a bit because people are
I suspect you might. I should have said it was early access. I suspect you're right, honestly, but maths is saying 285 based on follow account and all sorts of stuff, and I'm hopeful that they will achieve that, but I would be surprised, honestly. But we will see. Next game.
I really like the look of this.
You have to say the name first.
Sorry, Codename Ocean Keeper, and this looked a lot like a game I really enjoyed from a Polish studio a few years back called The Rift Breaker. I wonder if some of the same people have worked on it, because that was from Poland. This one is from Ukraine. The studio is based in Kiev, and it is a roguelite, unlike Rift Breaker, which was a sort of buildy RPG hybrid. I thought it looked really promising. The chatter on the forums is a bit negative on the demo, that the balance is out and that it's a bit buggy. But they've put patches out that have apparently been addressing a bunch of it. And the studio is interesting. They're normally an outsourcing studio who do concept art and things.
That's why it's so pretty.
This is why it's so pretty. And this I suspect might be why the balance is off, because that's not their specialty. But they've obviously got a lot of resources. They're obviously very sensibly wanting to do their own IP rather than just working for hire. And my feeling is that this will have a bit of a muted launch, but in the long run, I think it might be quite special. It looks gorgeous, and the build, upgrade, die, bank results, build, upgrade again, loop, if they can get the tuning right, could be really good in the long run. And they're doing it as early access. So I think it's going to be maybe 50, maybe 80. I'm going with 80 reviews week one, but in the long term, I think this might be a sleeper success.
I'd love that if that were the case. I saw this and initially thought, oh, okay, I kind of get it. I didn't really understand what the mazy bit looks like. I don't play many games like this, so I didn't understand how that fit in. And then I watched the trailer, and the trailer was fantastic. It made it look really fun, and it really explained what the game was by just showing you the gameplay, which is absolutely what you're supposed to do as an indie dev. Just shut up, don't overcomplicate, and just show people what the game is, because of course that's what they're paying for. And that actually excited me, the trailer. So it's worth saying they've also translated into 15 languages already, which shows serious competence, and will it doesn't mean they'll be successful, but it does mean that there are fewer barriers to their success.
To broaden the audience.
So they're clearly thinking business thoughts as well as art thoughts. So I've also come to 81 as my estimate, and we wish them the best. Good luck.
Lords of Ravage, battle card. I love a title with a colon on it.
Do you?
No, I actually do. I think
you use them a lot.
I do. I think it's a nice crunchy thing. I know some people are purists about it and mean, but I genuinely, it cheers me up and it feels very steamy.
I know what you mean. Lots of information already from the starting point.
That's it. Yeah.
So this sorry, go on.
You.
This is a self-published dev that strikes me as very competent. They're doing lots of things right. They're doing localization. It all looks like a game that has been made by people who know a bit about what they're doing, for sure. It combines a lot of Steam-friendly words like pixel art, card game, strategy, but the numbers suggest that there isn't that much buzz about it. They haven't managed to get the word out, or they haven't been focused on marketing, or whatever it is. So as far as I can tell, it seems like a good game. It might be a fantastic game. I haven't played it, but one that is not currently getting a lot of attention. So my estimate is around 34 reviews week one.
I'm unfortunately even more pessimistic about it. I think it's a really interesting looking. It's on my wish list now. And pixel art, 3D with lighting effects. You interest me. And the setup is sort of dungeon keeper-y, but I had a hard time working out what it actually is. And as somebody who has spent 15 years putting out weird games that are hard to explain to people, I know how difficult it can be. And I suspect one of the reasons it's very interesting looking game has so little traction is people look at it, don't really understand it, and move on.
That's true. It's hard to get what it is.
I'm going to estimate 22 reviews week 1, I'm afraid. I hope they do better.
All right. Now I'm going to get something here. The porn bell. It's Bear Witness.
I'm bemused by the chest on the lady further down the page. We're going to blur this out anyway. But it's just...
we are so going to blur this out.
It looks like she's not wearing a bra. She's got a sort of t-shirt, but the t-shirt is wrapped tightly around the breasts as if they've been painted. So I'm not clear. The ladies' clothing doesn't really work like that, as far as I know.
Well, neither does physics. But I think the key thing here is this is basically AI Love Island. In fact, it's Love Island. I think it's a sort of Western version of the anime hentai thing. It's sort of realistic graphics in as much as physics doesn't apply. And it seems relatively sweet in terms of the sort of fantasy. It's more just like, imagine if you had like 6 really hot girls that you could pick from, and sometimes you could have a threesome rather than something more bizarre. But it kind of is what it is.
So I that was my exact first reaction. I was like, oh, asset flip.
I didn't mean asset flip.
I know, but I thought asset flip was too strong. But I thought they've obviously got a bunch of 3D models and they throw them together in a visually enticing way. And I just looked up the developer. I was puzzled to see they won nominee for Adult Game of the Year in 2021, but it's only coming out.
For this game?
Yeah.
Oh, Adult Game of the Year.
It's been out on itch.io for ages.
Well, maybe they've been, tweaking the freckle count.
And I think there's an Android version as well. And they very proudly got a review down the bottom that says, no, it was itch first. And it's only a 2-dev team, apparently. And they're very proud of the fact that they say, what's the quote? Enjoy wholesome romance in your adult games. Bear Witness has you covered with all the face-touching, hand-holding and affirmations of love you can handle.
Okay.
And finally, when I looked at their itch page to see if it was active or not, a few weeks ago, they had a long conversation with somebody who couldn't get the game to run on their Mac. Now, as a Windows dev who occasionally gets people saying, I can't get the game to run on my Mac, it just black screens, I feel they're paying us upsetting, but they're doing good support. So it just it doesn't fit the easy narrative for cynical porn games. It's not for me.
Girlfriend
but
Sim.
I think it's slightly more interesting. I still think it will basically do commodity numbers.
Yes.
I think
so you're guessing?
I'm guessing 41 week 1.
And I'm guessing 65 week 1. So we will see. Broken Lens. Now this kind of stole my heart, but I'm also slightly heartbroken potentially for it, ironically.
Can I swear on this?
No.
I fecking love the French games industry. They do such
so do
interesting
I.
work.
As soon as I find out a dev is French, I'm immediately more interested because they are unusual, and sadly that often comes at the expense of amazing success, but they really do interesting, unusual, innovative stuff. So it is a mark of quality. And you look at this game and it's clearly a quality, well-made game. It's a cute, clever idea. The art, I think, is really nice. The
lead visual designer is a tattoo artist.
No, that makes so much sense. Yeah, it looks cool, and it's got this sweet, emotional heart, even though minus points for not giving me a name for the cute robot with the broken lens. But I think the big issue that this will have to overcome to really succeed is that puzzle games often do not do well on Steam. It's much more of a kind of in-depth, systemic-driven audience, and puzzles more traditionally do better on mobile. So looking at the numbers, I estimate around 37 reviews week 1, which would be fine. It's all about what you expect and how much resource you put into the game behind the scenes, etc. But puzzle games tend to be a bit of a dampening effect.
I think also cozy puzzle games are often it's like painting a racing car with a mural. It's sort of not
what?
I mean, if you're looking for a cozy game, you're often looking for something that's got repetitive action that you can feel you get sort of positive feedback from when you put time into it. And the experience of playing a puzzle game is very peak and trough. I don't understand. Oh, there it is, that sort of thing. So I think it's a really unusual mix, which is, like I say, fecking love the French games industry. But I think it won't do great. So I'm thinking 23 reviews week 1, which again, for a part-time team doing experimental work, is going to be a nice chunk of change. They can go and do something else. It's not a failure. He's got into the higher wish list end of the up and coming, but I don't think it's going to get the success.
Yeah, it's probably worth saying that every game that appears in the popular upcoming chart has already succeeded. Behind the scenes, the number I hear is you need like at least 7,000 wish lists to get into that, but a lot of it is luck as well, because if you happen to launch at the same time as 9 other very popular games, even if you've got 90,000 wish lists, you might not make it in. So every game that is featured on this video is already done very well. And yeah, Broken Lens do even better than we hope you're going to do.
What was your estimate?
My estimate was 37. Critter Crops.
So as soon as I read the name of this game, I thought, I bet I know what colours the promo art were. And I was almost right. I thought it was going to be cerulean and wheat, and it's more cerulean and apricot. So this is a sort of running gag we have with the factory that you'll notice that a lot of the cozy games, especially the sort of cozy homey games on Steam, have a particular aesthetic and a particular colour scheme for their promo art. So it's this is absolutely doing what people would expect it to do and what people want. And yeah, so I'm guessing 120 reviews week 1. It's going to be the kind of game that people looking for this kind of game play, and it's got a publisher and it looks pretty.
So it's a first time dev with a big but I think fairly widespread publisher. Again, I think it's made with heart. There seems to be a lot of stuff in this game. I'm not sure how the graphics will strike people. They're deliberately simplistic, and some people might like that.
The animation's really cute.
Well, this is what I mean by made with heart. So the art style is deliberately simplistic, potentially because the game itself is really deep from looking at the stuff in it. There seems to be lots to do, and the animations, like you say, are charming and actually surprisingly intricate for a game that says, this is line art with single opaque colours. So it gives me Oublette vibes. Some of the later stuff in the videos that I find surprising, because there seems to be quite intricate combat, which is not something I would necessarily expect from a cozy game. I would have looked at this initially and thought this is a nice farming sim with heart and charm. But some of the trailer shows some quite complex combat systems. So I don't know, maybe that'll be a plus, maybe that'll stress people out. But my estimates based on the numbers I can find are around 198 week 1. Last Whisper.
What do you think?
Well, it's beautiful. First thing to say is it's launched into early access, which, as we always say, is a slight depressor on sales because some people are a bit sus and want to wait till 1.0. It's co-op, which is a big tick in terms of success. It's zombie, which is a survival game. People like that. It's got guns and crafting. Very, very friendly Steam words there. It also has a public roadmap, which makes me think the devs are competent and thinking about the future and communicating that with players, which will make players, I think, feel more secure in the devs and therefore more likely to buy. It's also a husband and wife or a girlfriend boyfriend team, which is like we are. So that's very impressive, particularly because it looks so beautiful. And the numbers I can find are surprisingly high. Again, we always say zombies tend to not help. They're not a problem. They're not a blocker, but they aren't the multiplier that I think some people think they are. And the estimates I've come up with is 288 week 1, which would be very good if that's...
Yeah, I went into this thinking it's got it doesn't actually have zombies in the title. So that's, but it's got zombies.
It's got cool cover art.
It is early access, co-op. I think I said last time it's like an S-curve. If the co-op game takes off, there's a big multiplier. But if it doesn't take off, it's hard to find people to play it with. So it doesn't necessarily work well. It's a solo dev, and it can be difficult to do a co-op multiplayer game. Solo dev, 2-person team, But then I actually looked at the numbers I could find. It's got much more traction than I expected. So I think it will do really quite well. I think I'm guessing 150. I'm a bit more negative, particularly because of the early access thing, because there's a lot of early access buildy crafty games out there.
And again, sort of emotionally, I feel that 150 is probably closer to the mark, but the numbers are saying 288. So let's see.
Yeah, I'm interested by this. It's a company called Breakthrough Games, who I can't find anything about from my minutes of research. There is a company called Breakthrough Gaming who make Christian games, which appears to be something different. I think this game is going to be free. There's some discussion
this is the big question,
on the community forum. They did a playtest earlier this year, got a positive response. People are saying, "Oh yeah, the devs have said it'll be free." And also EA.
It is marked as free to play.
Yeah.
So it does.
So it's going to be free. So that will push the numbers. I'm guessing about 350. They're obviously doing something slightly interesting. It's a community. It's a co-op game. It's not a co-op game. Shut up, Kennedy. It's a competitive game with an existing community. So I think it will come out. People play it. It will do decently. I don't. Is it going to be free to FTP? Is it going to be?
It says free to play, so I think that would be really interesting. Because so I think it's a full game but free to play, and it's going to be. Now, traditionally, Steam hates free to play. Steam, it's very difficult to do free to play.
Except Team Fortress.
Well, but Valve.
Yeah.
Valve makes.
No, you're right. But the point I'm making is this obviously has some stuff in common with Team Fortress.
It did make me think of Team Fortress. It's true. But my point is, like you always say about it being very important that you get the design, balance, and tech right behind the scenes if we're going to have success with multiplayer games. From a marketing point of view, it's very important that you get the free-to-play balance right if you want people not to hate you, because it's very easy to tip into kind of money grubbing. People don't like it because people are expecting that. And of course, your business model is to basically give people easy money they can give you in small doses to build up over time. But that can come across very quickly as predatory or annoying. So either you have to have such a fantastic game that people are willing to spend that money on it, despite the fact that it annoys them to have to spend the money on it. And I think that's probably more the Fortnite model, the kind of really mass, you can't really compete with it unless you're another massive company. So ultimately you're going to pay $20 for a skin, or you do what you did before in London, which is deliberately be very careful and kind of characterful and
even then,
but it's a difficult balance.
And even then, one of the reasons that I've said I'll never do another free to play game is that I would feel reluctant to do even the very gentle monetization that For London did, because it just perverts the game design that you deal with all the time. But look,
and I'm pro that premium is where it's at. But that's just the thing that I'm interested in for this. I would imagine that would lower the review score by 10 or 20% because it's free to play, even though it would bump up the number of people who actually gave it a go because it is free. So we will see. So my estimates is 211, which is slightly lower than yours unusually. But again, 350. Time will tell. Now the big hitter, Cataclismo.
This looks good. This looks, I wonder who the dev is. Oh, some people did Moonlighter. Yeah. Some people who partnered on a League of Legends game a little while ago. Same people did another game I hadn't heard of that did really well. Yeah. They've got a Hooded Horse, are a sort of mid-weight publisher who really know what they're doing.
I think Hooded Horse are the best indie publishers you can get.
Oh, really?
I do, for PC games.
Bold statement.
I actually do. They really seem to be engaged and active, and their games seem to consistently do better. And one of the things I've noticed about publishers is there's not a consistency in their output. The point of a publisher is to maximize your efforts and to multiply your success, but also from the publisher's point of view, they want to basically buy a bunch of games and do a kind of shotgun scattergun approach and hope that as many of them as possible are big hitters, right? So you kind of think from an indie dev point of view, if I get a publisher, they will ensure success. But from a publisher's point of view, what they're saying is you can join the 20 other games and I hope that you succeed. And
this is why I think often big publishers of the widespread aren't that good.
That's the thing, exactly. Whereas Hooded Horse do seem to have a level. It doesn't mean if you get published by them you're going to succeed. I don't want to lie to any devs who are listening to this, but I do respect.
Hooded Horse haven't paid us any money.
They really have. I have no idea. I've never met anybody at Hooded Horse. I just have noticed them doing well. So the combination, there's lots of ticks here to the point of like I'm actually a bit frightened. So they're launching to EA, which is a depressor, but it doesn't matter because number one, they're the 100 most wishlisted game on Steam, which is very impressive. As AK said, they are Moonlighter devs. They've got previous impressive history. They've probably got the best indie publisher for PC games. There's tons of Steam friendly words: strategy, simulator, management, moddable. That's a hidden gem, I think, for a lot of players. That it's also like Lego-like graphics, which I bet is deliberate because the kind of person who likes this kind of game, I bet is also the kind of person who's quite into the Lego stuff. So the whole thing is working coherently. And they helpfully for this video announced yesterday that they have 250,000 wish lists, which is astonishing. I would pay good money and not murder anything, but maybe make a cake of the thing and then murder that cake for 250,000 wish lists. I would love that.
My wife plays
So
Mistress Murder Cake.
So the numbers I'm coming up with for week 1, let me remind you, is 1,667 specifically. I'm going for that, which would be just amazing.
I'm even more optimistic. I'm.
You've gone bonkers on this one.
Well, so first of all, I like it, and I've got it wish listed. I think I'll have a good time with this. But secondly, I'm overcorrecting probably from my underestimate of Once Humans' success last week. I think that there is an effect that's very hard to adjust for, and as much art as science on getting what a game will do if it really takes off. So I'm guessing 3,500 reviews,
which is insane. Again, to give benchmarks, 100 to 500 is your kind of good success indie, very happy. We were delighted with Book of Hours launch, which got 1,000 reviews week 1. We're very pleased with that. And you're saying it's going to do more than 3 times that success. Just amazing. So wish them the best. I think this one's something
they're
to
a good
watch.
dev with a good game, with a good publisher and a track record and a lot of traction. I think this one will go all the way.
Yeah. So we will watch this with great interest. And our final game for the week, Artisan TD. Now this game really tickles me. In a good way, right? So I've dubbed this the Ron Seal game. Now, to anybody who's not British, which is presumably quite a lot of you watching this, Ron Seal has a famous catchphrase in the UK, which is
it's like all-weather sealant you put on parts and things.
And the famous catchphrase is does what it says on the tin, which means you know where you are with this product. It does exactly what it wants, it does it well, and it doesn't do anything else. It does the thing that you bought it to do. Buy it. And that resonated very well with the British audience. And I think this is exactly the same thing, which is not an insult, it's a compliment. So, even the name, Artisan TD, I presume TD stands for Tower Defense. And Artisan is actually the name of the dev. So what they've said is, this is our game and it's a tower defense. Already, I like that. It's beautiful, but it's not overwhelmingly beautiful. It's not sort of, they've put lots of silly grace notes that don't, which obscure the gameplay. It says, this is what it is. We've made it really nice. If you like tower defense, then you should buy this game. And that has been reflected in the numbers behind the scenes. I looked at this and I thought this is a obviously good looking, well-made game by people who care. That's all tick, tick, tick. But that often doesn't mean that you have a lot of buzz or a lot of people who are interested, because unfortunately other people are making games too, selfishly. And you can't have everyone's attention all of the time. But behind the scenes, they've actually got a really healthy follower count. So I'm estimating 343 reviews week 1, which is amazing. So yeah, I wish them the best. I also find it quite funny.
I like the description of the game is Artisan TD is a maze-type tower defense game. We have to survive by building mazes. Ron Seal. That's it.
This is the thing.
Mazes, towers, done.
Exactly. If this is for you, buy it. If it's not, see you later. No hard feelings. I really respect it.
Okay.
But you haven't said your numbers.
Oh, I haven't. No, 300.
Oh, I stumbled at the last. Oh, we were so good.
And tomorrow the weather will be...
What will it be tomorrow?
Hazy with a chance of blood.
That's my partner. Would you want the murder cake or do you want the hazy with a chance of blood? I mean, we know what you want because you're the designer of our games. But tell us what you think in the comments. Tell us if you think there are significantly different numbers, if there are elements that we haven't talked about. Again, you're probably more expert on this than we are. So let us know what you think.
Share your guesses in the comments. You can be wrong along with us or righter than us.
And we will be back in another 2 weeks to talk about the ones we estimated today and with 10 shiny new games.